Hey, Corey, time for another PBT Extra. And I want to start here because I've been thinking a lot about LaMelo Ball the last week because I sat down with and talked to Bismack Biyombo, who's become his mentor in Charlotte, and the guy kind of guiding him through being a player coming overseas and then playing in the NBA and how to adjust to that. But it also got me thinking, and I'm curious what you think, where does LaMelo Ball now stand for you in the Rookie of the Year race?
He is establishing himself very much at the forefront. Yeah. He's been balling right now. I mean, it's just no other way you could say it. There were doubts about his three-point shot. That was a big thing about him, and then he comes out and silences all critics. He's shooting 21 for 40 over the last 6 games, breaking rookie records for the franchise. I mean, he's really just going all out. And I think for LaMelo Ball, we already knew, we talked about this before, he has that it factor, that little magic around him when he's playing the game. It's just fun to watch him play. And now he has the numbers to support that. It looks pretty good.
Yeah, it does. And he's also the 2 knocks on him coming in were concerns about the shot. And like you said, it's funky. Let's be honest, man. It's a bit of a shot put, but it's going in at a high rate. More than 37% for the year too. So it's been consistently going in. Number 2, the question was, is he kind of an Instagram star and a guy who's not going to try on defense, or is he going to really love the game and learn and try? And he clearly likes it. I mean, he clearly savors getting better and putting in the work. You can see it on the defensive end. He's not a great defender. He looks like every other rookie, kind of lost at points, but he's trying. He's got that length. He's putting in real effort, and you see him making steps and improving. And that's all you can ask, right? Is he ever going to be a lockdown defender? No, but he is, to me, I'm with you. I think clear and away, he's the guy to beat for Rookie of the Year, both because he's got the numbers. He's starting now. He's put up 22 and 5 since he's been in the starting lineup, and they're 3 and 2 and looking like a playoff team with him starting. And he's getting these important minutes. He also has the narrative, right? It's just hard not to watch him. Everybody wants to watch Charlotte. The only other guy I've got anywhere in his ballpark is Tyrese Halliburton with the Kings. I think he'd be number 2 on my ballot. And then it opens up a little into Anthony Edwards, put up some numbers, but he's not very efficient. And we can go on down the line. But to me, the other guy is Halliburton. Halliburton is he's closing games for the Kings, who have been red hot the last couple of weeks. And he's also, man, he just makes smart decisions night in and night out.
He's a great skill set, and he has a great basketball mind. I really do like Halliburton. But for me, my number 2 pick is James Wiseman. And I know that he's not played it recently because of the sprained wrist. But, man, this guy is smart, and his skill set is, it's remarkable. It is remarkable. And that Golden State team, I know it stops and starts with Chef Curry, who's been cooking up a lot of great basketball clips for us recently. But, James Wiseman is finding his role there, and he's getting it done at all levels, from deep, from around the post. He's just so athletic, going against the board. So, for me, James Wiseman, as far as impact immediately and being able to help a team win, a good team, a team that has potential. I know they're right now, I think they're 8th in the West, but they have potential to keep climbing. I'm really impressed by that. And look, LaMelo Ball, Halliburton, the guys that you're mentioning, they're helping their teams get better, but they're still not great teams. You look at that Eastern Conference, and Charlotte, right now they're pretty high up, but it's not a very competitive, bottom half of that league, that conference. But the Golden State, that's such a hard conference to win. And if James Wiseman can help do anything to push them forward, that's impressive.
Yeah, he's been thrust into a situation with their injuries along the front line where they're asking a lot of him as a rookie right now. And he's had moments, right? He's definitely, his defense again is just, it's going to be a work in progress, especially as a big man, because you're asked to kind of cover and react really quickly. And he's still learning that. But you see the glimpses of athleticism where he just, as he learns to use the space Curry, you talk about Curry, he just creates space out there. As he's learning to eat that space up and how to take advantage of it, he's really starting to come into his own on offense. So I think he's what I like about Wiseman is could he be in a better learning spot? I don't know where you're going to be, where Draymond Green and Steph Curry are the guys in your ear. That's a great way to grow.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, like we talked about before, I think this award is not just about stats. It's about star power, right? You look at who are the future stars of the league, and this award kind of puts their stamp on it and says the NBA is endorsing Ja Morant, the NBA is endorsing, Luka Doncic or whoever to be able to carry the mantle of the league And it's like that to me right now, it has to be LaMelo Ball, just because he is, I mean, he sells tickets. People want to watch him play. And I mean, he's getting better every night. And that's all you can ask for a guy who's hopefully going to play 10, 15 years in the league.
Yeah, exactly. He is must watch. And the Hornets have become must watch, which is not something I thought I'd say. And it's kind of interesting. You're right. They are kind of in a playoff position now. And in the East, you look across, you see a team in Toronto where maybe they need to get there, right? Like they've started slow. They've struggled a little bit. And part of this has led to questions about, should they trade Kyle Lowry? There's some push within the organization. Some think, hey, man, it's essentially time to blow it up. Let Gasol's gone, Ibaka's gone. Let's move on. You know, DeRozan's gone. Time to move on from Lowry and kind of start this thing anew around Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby and you know, Fred VanVleet will be there. Would you trade Kyle Lowry? Do you think that's the wise move?
I think they're looking at a guy like Chris Paul as a comp. You know, Chris Paul is around the same age as Kyle Lowry, both around 6'36", both putting up pretty good numbers. I mean, I looked at the history books here, and back in 2013 to 15, Kyle Lowry's putting up basically the same numbers, averaging 17 and 6, shooting similar field goal percentage. He's taking a little bit more threes, but for the most part, it's basically the same stats as 8 years ago. So Kyle Lowry's playing at a very high level. And I think if the Raptors say, look, if we're going to move forward, we can actually get something for Kyle, and Kyle can go on and help a team win and get to that next stage. So for me, a team that comes to mind is someone like a New Orleans who needs point guard help. And right now they're trying to figure out between Lonzo Ball and that rookie, Kira Lewis Jr., trying to figure out what is the right move here. But their team centers around Zion Williamson mostly and Brandon Ingram. But they need that point guard. And if you bring in a veteran presence like Kyle Lowry, who has a championship DNA, who can help take that team to the next level, bring in that veteran leadership that Steven Adams is also bringing in as well for the New Orleans team. And then you get Kira Lewis Jr. to learn under a guy like Kyle Lowry, who has one more year left on his contract. That could be a nice move that benefits both teams.
I think that's the real question. There is what you get back in a Kyle Lowry deal, because $30 million and he can't opt out. Like, he could be a free agent. Like, you're going to have to come up with a way to keep him there long term if you're going to spend that much to get him in. So, you know, what are you sending out? What are you getting back? And in Toronto's case, they're going to want a fair amount, but also they're half a game. Like we were talking about Charlotte being, you know, playing all this well. Toronto's the 8th seed. They're half a game back. Like, if they actually start to play up to their potential, this is absolutely a playoff team. Do I think that they can knock off, I don't know, you know, Philadelphia, Milwaukee, Brooklyn up at the top of the East? Probably not. But they could be a lot better than they are. So the other thing, and I don't want to say we fantasy basketball this a little bit too much, where we're like, hey, we'd like plug this guy in over here. The other part of this is Kyle Lowry is the greatest Raptor ever. If you're going to put a statue out in front, like, it's not just Kawhi's shot in and taking them to the title. This is the franchise icon. This is the guy who's been their best player through a run of the best basketball in Toronto Raptors history. There was a lot of pushback when DeRozan was traded, and there was a lot of pushback, and then the Raptors fans went, yeah, but we got Kawhi Leonard, and that ended up working out pretty well for them.
Yeah, I mean, I would say so.
But if they trade Lowry and they commit to I think there just would be a lot of unhappiness. He may leave as a free agent ultimately, but I don't know if you're going to trade him, like how that would play in Toronto with a very passionate fan base. So it'll be interesting to see.
But I mean, let's think about this for a second. First of all, I mean, Vince Carter, T-Mac. I mean, all these guys understand. Come on. I mean, someone who captured the imagination, what Vince Carter means to Toronto basketball, I feel like is a whole nother level.
I mean, the thing is that he pushed his way out, and Lowry hasn't done that. This has been the difference. And part of that is, by the way, they weren't winning that much. Like, they weren't that good when Vince was there. And that's part of the reason there was a franchise frustration they wanted out. This has been a 50-plus win team, a very good team for a long stretch of time. So it's a very different vibe.
Totally, that's a good point. But with this Toronto Raptors team, the number one thing in the NBA, I think, in any professional sports team, any corporation, in any business, is succession planning, right? And Kawhi Leonard was your guy. He left. First it was DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry, then Kawhi Leonard comes in, and then now Kyle, I mean, he's 36, and even if he plays, as long as Tom Brady's playing football, even if he plays into his mid-40s, you still got to figure out what's the next chapter in Toronto Raptor basketball. And you got an all-star and in Siakam. So I feel like and you're signing Fred VanVleet, I mean, who is balling out. Like, he's really playing well. He's coming into his own, and he's becoming a bona fide superstar for that team. And OG Anunoby, we've seen what he can be as a 2 or 3 guy on that team as well. Look, that is the core. That's the future of Toronto. It's pretty clear and evident. And then now it's time to figure out, okay, if Kyle Lowry's a part of that, how can he accept a new role with his team? And if he doesn't want to do that and move on, maybe then the Raptors can get some nice pieces to build around that new generation. But I understand that it's always tough to say goodbye and move on to a next chapter. But I think that at a certain point you're going to have to do that. And if Lowry wants to, it has to. Obviously, like you're saying, Lowry is such a big part of that Toronto Raptor franchise. You would have to do it in a way that is respectful of him, and hopefully it gives him the best position to to not feel like he's getting kicked out, because no one wants to feel like that.
Right. I think you've got to do this in concert with Kyle Lowry, right? Like, this has got to be the kind of trade where everybody's on the same page and you're trying to land him in a place he wants to be that's good for him. And this isn't just, hey, how much can we get for him? We're just talking to the highest bidder. We don't care. I think it has to be more collaborative than that, but I think it would be. I think that both sides would want that if it comes to that. Right now, I think the challenge for them is Toronto really a contender in the East? Probably not, right?
Yeah, I mean, contender being championship contender. I think it's Philly or Boston or the Bucks.
Right.
I think or the Nets. I think right now it's like those 4 teams. Everyone else is kind of like they might get 1 or 2 games in 1 or 2 series in the playoffs, but for the most part they're not going all the way. But it's still early, but it doesn't look good.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that though. Let's talk about who are the best teams in the East. Who are the contenders? Who can come out of there? To me, let's start with that conversation. Philadelphia has the best record. Yeah. Like, Philadelphia has the best record. They have been. Joel Embiid is playing at an MVP level. Doc Rivers has found a way to get Ben Simmons the ball in transition and have him involved in the offense. But when it bogs down a little in the half court, it's been the Tobias Harris show. I like them a lot. They've been phenomenal in the regular season. I think, to me, the question is, it just becomes harder for big men to get the ball and be successful in the playoffs. Like, I can zone them out. I can make it hard. You can't just lob it into the post. And yes, Joel Embiid can do more than that, but can he have the same level of success in the postseason?
I think all you have to do is look to Anthony Davis and see what he did in that playoff, basically the entire playoffs last year. He dissected, every defense he had, basically had his way. And obviously LeBron James was Finals MVP, and LeBron was taking over games when he needed to, and he was facilitating. But make no mistake, what Anthony Davis accomplished in the playoffs was nothing short of remarkable. And that was almost like a throwback to the 90s as far as being able to just run the offense, the big man. But I think it's a matter of being multiple. And we've talked about this before. If you have a guy that is as dominant as Joel Embiid, sometimes it's as easy as just getting the ball on the post and let him go to work. He has so many moves. He can just take any move out of his whole little basket of goods there. But I think there's also a point of, like, how do you uncover him, right? And to use football language. And I think that a guy, like Alabama used that for Devontae Smith so beautifully. He was the best player in college football, undoubtedly, but they put him in different positions to uncover him and create mismatches. And that's what these basketball teams are going to have to figure out for a big guy like Joel Embiid. Sometimes it's going to be as easy as seal in transition, get him the ball on the low post. Other times it's going to be, how do we create a situation that we can manufacture mismatches for our star big men.
Yeah, again, and by the way, Joel Embiid's face-up game got a lot better this year. Like, that's one of the things, his face-up game's better, which makes him far more dangerous in ability to go, because who's staying in front of him? Like, he's just going to overpower a lot of guys, especially if you can get a switch even onto a modern 4. They're just not going to be able to handle Joel. So I think that there's a lot of potential there. What do you think of Brooklyn?
I think Brooklyn is, it's only a matter of time. For me, it really is, Kurt. I feel like right now they're trying to figure out who they are. And that's the thing that makes Philadelphia so interesting, is they already know their identity. They found their identity, and right now it's about perfecting what they do. Brooklyn is practicing in real time against other NBA teams, and they're trying to figure out what exactly is our identity, who closes out games, who runs the offense, how do we play defense together? Like, they were trying to figure all that stuff out on the fly, but it's only going to be a matter of time. And then when they figure it out, it's going to be, I don't know who could take them out. What do you think of them?
As we speak right now, it's been 13 games since the Harden trade, and they're 7-6. Their net rating is basically flat. Kyrie used the word the average the other day. Frankly, they've been pretty average, but they've also only had those big three together for 6 of those 13 games. Like, they just have not been on the court enough as a group. And when that happens, I think I'm with you. I think, look, the defense is a legitimate concern. It's been worst in the league since the trade. It is a legitimate issue, but how many stops do they need? Like, once you get all 3 of those guys there, you just need enough stops to win. I think we saw that against Milwaukee last week. Like, they're going to be good enough, I think. To me, they're still, if you made me pick a team, I'd probably pick them, just because I think that there's enough time for them to figure out the defense, make some moves if they need to, get somebody to help DeAndre Jordan inside and protect the rim a little. And from there, like, they only need to get enough stops to make that offense work. So that to me is enough, man. Talent ultimately wins out. Could they beat the Lakers or somebody out of the West? That might be a different conversation. But in the East, I don't know that anybody beats them.
And I think the only comp that we can see that, with what you just said, it's a great point, is with the Clippers last year. How many games did that starting 5 play together? And they didn't really play that many until the end of the season, and they didn't have the chemistry, and it showed in the playoffs, right? So that is going to be another concern for this Brooklyn Nets team, is to avoid what happened to Los Angeles, the Clippers last season. Yeah,
exactly. You can't flip the switch, man. Unless you've already flipped it. And can the Lakers flip a switch this year? Yeah, I'll let them. But if you haven't flipped it before, you don't get to flip it for the first time in the playoffs, right? Like, you're going to have to earn that. You mentioned Boston the other day. Are you still high on their chances of potentially coming out of the East?
Yeah, they played a pretty strong game against Utah. But Utah, they're just unbelievable right now. Kurt, 16 out of 17. They are playing crazy basketball. But yeah,
great, aren't they? They're just
they are playing another level. But no, yeah, I think with Boston, they're showing me that they can play in these big games. They can play against the championship caliber teams, the 1s, 2s, 3s of the league, consistently, and they're showing that they got a lot of fight. I think right now they just got to figure out a couple. They got to tinker around a little bit, because it's just, as we saw last night, it wasn't enough to beat the Jazz, because Donovan Mitchell just took over, and Tatum didn't take over until late in the game. It wasn't enough. Jaylen Brown started off hot, but then couldn't finish strong. So I think right now Boston just has to figure out how do they just shore up a little bit of that, the perimeter, if you will, to make sure that it's consistent every single night. But man, they look good.
Yeah, they've also got the advantage of 3 great perimeter defenders, right? They've got Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, and when healthy, they've got Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, and Jason Tatum. That's a lot of that's a lot of good wing play. It's going to be tough to match up with. If they can just get a little more from Kemba Walker and some consistent play in the paint, and I know they've been looking at bigs as a potential trade or free, signing later. If they can just get through that, to me, like that wing play puts them in play, by the way, and makes them maybe the best team in the East to match up with Brooklyn. Like, if you're going to have to go head to head with them, at least you've got the defenders. You know who we haven't discussed in this? Milwaukee. We should not be leaving Milwaukee off this list.
No, we should not. No, we should not. I think Milwaukee, it's almost like a Warren Buffett investment meeting. I feel like it's like you buy a good company and you hold it forever. And then every meeting is the same. Geico's still going up. Coca-Cola's still going up. That's how I feel like with Milwaukee is, the updates are the same from week to week. It's the same thing that they needed. That they're still playing well. They're number 2 in the East. Giannis is still, back-to-back MVP. He's playing like it. Chris Middleton is growing into his role. Drew Holiday is like a nice addition. Everything is just kind of like, okay, we'll check in 60 games in the playoffs and see what's up. But yeah, Milwaukee it's old reliable right now. They're chugging away and they're racking up wins and but like we talked about before, it's the playoffs. Can they figure out their offense where it's just not give Giannis the ball and go 1-on-1 or 1-on-5? Can they figure out a way to make it a little bit more multiple?
And I think that's the thing that makes me most optimistic about them going into the playoffs. Like, they have not been as dominant this regular season as they have been in previous regular seasons. But when you watch them, part of the reason is they're using Giannis Antetokounmpo off the ball more. He was setting screens for Drew Holiday. He's not just bringing it up every time. They never switched on defense. They're switching on defense right now to try it out, and not all the time, but they're doing it some. And they look like a team that hasn't switched a lot. They're making some poor decisions with their personnel about when to switch and when to pressure. You learn those hard lessons over the course of a season so that when you break that out in the playoffs, it's not new. They're adding the kind of diversity to their repertoire, the more tools in the bag for Mike Budenholzer that they've needed, that they haven't done in the previous seasons. That gives me a little hope that when push comes to shove and the wall is created in front of Giannis and he can't just drive to the rim at will in the postseason, well, you know what? He's going to set a pick for Drew Holiday and roll to the rim, and good luck stopping that play, right? Like there's just, I think that they've got more tools now for the postseason, and they're using them in the regular season to figure out how to make it work. So that makes me optimistic if I'm a Bucks fan.
Yeah, and you see this a lot, right? So we're going to show this coverage, we're going to show this offensive play, and then in 2 months, 3 months later, when we really need to draw something up, we're going to go to that thing that we haven't showed in 3 months and then make one little tweak, and to catch everyone sleeping. Oh, we saw it on tape one time just to put it on tape, and then we're going to change it. So 100%. I think you're right on there. And with Milwaukee, we'll see how they can refine these tools, because they're going to need it when in crunch time, when you have the 76ers in the Eastern Conference Finals, or you have the Brooklyn Nets and they're firing all cylinders. This game is about peaking at the right times, right? And you don't want to peak in game 25. You want to peak game 80, game 90, deep into the playoffs.
Exactly. And I think the Bucks are a little better positioned to do that this year. But like you said, it's all about the playoffs for them, right? And so we'll see.